Okay, so happy holidays are over. Happy the holidays are over. Right? Oh,
Yeah.
my dear God, I've eaten too much. But hey, you're in the new studio with Chris and Ken in Shop Talk, the weekly report. 60 minutes of all the shit we can fit. And I'm happy that you guys can probably hear me this week. And I can hear
Yes.
Ken. And Ken
I
can
feel
hear me.
like yes, it is a Christmas miracle.
Oh, dear God.
It's a Christmas miracle. Yeah.
So how was your holidays, Ken?
Here we are. Fantastic, man. Two small kids, 10 and 12. They still kind of believe in Santa. So that's fun. Still got to sneak around and shit on Christmas Eve. And yeah, it was great. Really fun. No real stress. My mom was here for a little while, and we had some snow. So, which right before Christmas we did not have. I actually contemplated riding my motorcycle just like a couple days before Christmas, and then we finally got some snow. Got frigid.
Well,
So,
as you
it's all
know,
well.
we came up to New Hampshire for the holidays, and there was plenty of snow. Plenty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like feet.
Mm-hmm.
There's no riding.
Yeah.
But we're back. We're back.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about motorcycles. And man,
Wait a minute. You mean that post that you put up with you on the Twisted T-bike and the tree on the back? It's not.
dude,
It's not real?
No, it was real. 'Cause
What?
shortly after that, the video that I cut out was me trying to get out of the snow with the bike running, and it
Yeah.
was a mess. It was a hot mess.
I want to see that video.
I'll play it for you, but not on the air because it was
Yeah.
a little
'Cause
embarrassing.
it was embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. It was
So-
one of those like girl on the back of the bike and guy tries to do a wheelie
No,
and like
and
flips it
she
over
actually even
kind of
got
thing.
off the back of the bike because it was
Yes.
it was so bad. It really
Yeah, she's
was.
like, yeah, I'm not doing this. That's
So
fun.
we got a really crazy show today. I mean, on top of the fact that one of my longtime journalism heroes, Bandit, is on. The news is packed with stuff. We got so much stuff to do today. So I don't know where you want to start.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know that we need to apologize, but I feel like maybe we should, at least the few people that are out there, watching, listening, etc. We have had some technological issues, and I feel like Chris has taken all of his free time over the holiday to solve it with thousands of dollars worth of equipment and hundreds of hours of studying, and he's done it now, and now he's not just the co-host, he is also officially Mr. Producer Man.
The engineer.
Yeah, he's the engineer, which is just what you wanted to be. I know that for sure.
No, you know what though,
but-
man. I mean, this is the age of technology. And if you're going to do this stuff, sometimes it takes a little while to get your head around something. And we jumped in with both guns blaring, man. I mean, we grabbed some brand new software and just started broadcasting. So I don't feel bad about it at all.
No. And I think we got some really good shows out there. I feel like moving forward, we're going to have a lot more capabilities. We are actually going to get to people calling in, I think, or at least asking questions. I think we could do a few of these live if we could get the feed correct in terms of
Hey, here, watch this.
sort of thing.
Whenever we're ready for call-ins, look at that. We can take call-ins. They got the number right there. I got this down, baby.
Yeah, nice. Now there's
Jesus.
going to be people calling. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to put this up on my personal page. So you talk for a second. Let me get our broadcast reposted
Okay,
on my
so-
page and Forever Two Wheels page.
Let's start out with this. You guys have been watching us, see us at the IMS shows. We've been building what we're calling the War Pony, and I can't thank Dan Fitzmaurice from Zippers enough because he really took me under his wing for this. Took my motor to Zippers, and they've been going over it. And I got a quick report from Danny about the status of the motor, so we're going to check in with him real quick and check that out.
Thanks, Chris. Well, we got the complete engine here for the Cycle Source build. It's a 2003 model with 120,000 miles on it, and we do have some worn parts throughout the engine. So we're going to highlight that in the various videos that we're going to do, covering the crankshaft build, the short block. We're going to do the timing chest with a new cam plate to improve the oil flow. We're going to put some redshift cams in the engine, and of course we're going to freshen up the cylinders and with a fresh bore, and we're going to CNC port these cylinder heads, and we're going to recap everything and get it all ready for running at the Washington show in February.
Right on, Dan. Thanks a lot, man. I honestly can't thank you enough for that, because I know that motor was sick to begin with. You know, the tuning that they gave it at Zippers, we put it on a much lighter chassis, and coming back with the Redshift cams and Dan's final touch on it, it's going to be crazy. So really looking forward to test riding that thing the first time out. Ken, back to you.
All right. I think we're posted now to all my socials, and I got some light on, which is always good.
So while you're talking, I'll mention that we got Facebook Live up. Anybody that wants to comment, I see you guys, Dave Campbell, Timothy Logger, Fenton Fadley, everybody on here with us. Rebecca Cunningham, it's going to be great, no glitches. She was helping me out over the break, get this audio thing figured out. Tom Kiefer's on with us, thank God. Randy Wagner. Right on. So here we are, getting into the news. Let's talk about this. Is the first headline, man, that's just blowing my mind. So in the news with SNS.
Yeah, it's and I'd love to be able to call over there and say, hey, what's going on, guys? But I'm sure that they are tied by all sorts of legal constraints that nobody could actually tell us officially what's going on. But it sounds like they have ceased production on their 4-inch Sidewinder kits, right? Their big bore kits. And is that for just Evos, I'm assuming?
You know, man,
right?
It says 106, 107, 117, 124.
Are not affected and will remain
available.
And will remain available. So we'd have to really look into which ones they are. But it looks like it's very specific part numbers. And so I would guess that there's probably a run on them on eBay right now.
Yeah, buddy.
As with most parts that become at least obsolete, or if they're anyway. I don't know. What do you think's going on there? Do you think that there's an actual? I mean, obviously there's a lawsuit, so it sounds like a patent. It sounds like a patent that was just to a potential conflict with a recently issued patent.
Yeah, the thing that kills me about this is the kind of stuff that starts to happen when times get hard. People get real protective, and I mean they have a right to. I'm not disputing that at all, but it's times like this that are hard, where you would like to see everybody get together more and make it through these times and make it better for everybody. Unfortunately, that's quite idealistic by me. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, but I understand it. I mean, it makes sense.
Real quick,
but it's difficult, because you look at somebody like SNS, and if you've never been to SNS, I don't know that they necessarily do public tours, even though they are the largest supplier of aftermarket performance parts. Wouldn't you say that that's true?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, in terms of Harley Davidson, they still have very much a down home feel. When I went in there, and maybe we'll try to get some of the video that I did from a few years ago. We'll try to get those up maybe on our Facebook page or something, so you guys can see them. But you can see kind of the interior workings of it, and see that it's really like, I mean, the woman that puts together the carburetors looks like my grandma. Like, it is locals who have been working there forever, and so to see something like that kind of shut down, that that could potentially mean jobs. That could potentially mean, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of ramifications in that. That it makes me sad, because it really is still a family-owned business.
Listen, it's so much so too. People sometimes don't realize, like Dan Kinsey that works there. Part of his job used to be taking care of some of the livestock on the farm. During the day, he would stop machining and go take care of livestock, and then when no one else would drive the Streamliner, Dan went to Bonneville and drove the Streamliner. You know what I mean? So yeah, like that was, that's, I can so sympathize with that, because if we fielded a Bonneville bike, it would probably be me on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not because I necessarily want to try to set a land speed record, but that's a small business, Yeah,
and that's that's a great kind of parallel, because if you look at everything that they get thrust into, whether they wanted to or not, like they have to do stuff for the M8 engine. Like they have to do that stuff, and it's not like they've ever done that before, that specific thing, because obviously it's a new powertrain, but they're like, hey, we're going to do this. It's the same thing with Baker, and I think that's one of the things that I love about companies like that is, they're USA made, they're family owned, and they respond to the market. It's not just, hey, you're going to take what we make and we're going to shove it down your throat no matter what. They are constantly innovating. And in order to do that, they've got to be riders. Like it is a factory full of riders, like they are passionate about it. You got to be passionate about it to drive to or live in Viola, Wisconsin. Winter, it is cold. Cold.
So listen, I know we've talked about this from time to time, what you do with forever2wheels.com, but I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. We have an issue of the magazine coming up and probably just hitting newsstands in a week or so here, and you had the opportunity to interview one of the greats of this industry, definitely of the whole chopper movement, and I wanted to give everybody a little excerpt real quick of your interview with Sugar Bear on Forever Two Wheels.
Cool.
So I'm not going to play too much of that, man.
That's great.
Right after that part, you guys get into how he actually got the name Sugar Bear, and it was a fantastic interview, and I'm so happy for you because, like I said, that stuff that you do, it captures that voice, it captures that person in that moment in time, and I just think it's really truly priceless work that you're doing.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate that. That was the whole intent of this. And I have to give props to people like you and Mason Moyer. She was like, "You've got to do this." I talked to her about it probably a year before I ended up doing it, and she's like, "You got to do this. It's not about you. It's about capturing." Kind of the essence of the chopper culture, what it is right now. And like I've said, I've got some regrets of people that I didn't get to talk to, whether it was, Mike Fairbaugh or John Green, those two guys, they were on my short list of people that I wanted to talk to that had so much information and history. And, it kind of leads into, the person that we're going to have on today, and obviously we're going to get to him in a little bit, but, I had Keith Ball on. I got to go to the BikerNet World Headquarters, which is always my preference. I always like, and it's the thing that's held me back. I know that there's some people out there that are like, hey, why don't you put out more podcasts? And a lot of it is because when you're not face to face, and kind of like you can hear in that Sugar Bear interview, there are pauses where when you're not face to face, that's what happens. There's kind of, it doesn't have that kind of personal feel. But a lot of times I need to put that aside, kind of put the artistic side part aside and just go, hey, you know what? This information needs to get out there, whether it's perfect or not. It needs to get out there. And so I did an interview with Bandit at the BikerNet World Headquarters in Wilmington, California. I believe that's where it is. And it was I got
a shot of it right here.
Yeah, it was so cool, man. Going there and just, the hospitality and him showing me the shop and just everything about it. I mean, it's pretty epic. And then hearing the stories that he told, about back in the day, because for people that don't know, he was one of the earliest editors of Easy Riders,
right.
And like back in the heyday, back in the 70s, and then was also editor of Hot Bike, and came up with BikerNet. I mean, how long has that been around now? Is it 20 years or something?
BikerNet's been around as long as Cycle Source, and my favorite part of that story is he actually took that to the owner of Easy Riders and told him, hey man, this internet thing is going to be hot. We could do a never-ending magazine that we just constantly put content in, and they told him It was a bad idea. So he left Easy Riders and went and did that on his own.
Yeah, that's yep. That sounds about right.
Triumph. What do you got? What do you got here for Triumph? Triumph's in the news.
Yeah, Triumph. It's interesting because you and I have been following Triumph. It's one of those. They are not a mainstream brand. It's a fringe brand. A lot of people actually know them, but they don't do the kind of volume that really any of the other OEMs do. But they're finding some real success, and they're finding it in the smaller displacement bikes, and they don't say kind of what the breakdown was, but I think their profits, their sales went up by 90 million this year.
Yeah, that's
which
insane.
is a drop in the bucket for somebody like Harley or Honda or Suzuki or
But it's encouraging right now when everybody's talking doom and gloom for motorcycling. It's very encouraging.
And I think it also speaks to the kind of small displacement. Their bikes are, with the exception of kind of the bigger bikes, and like the Speed Triple, which is just a monster. Have you ever ridden one of those things? Speed Triple?
Not the new incursion of it.
Dude. So I'll just digress for a second. I was down in Daytona probably, it has to be 15 years ago. I didn't have a bike, and it was Pat Patterson's, he had just kind of started Lead Sled, or he was just kind of, he probably had 5 or 6 bikes that he had built, and one of them was a rigid Triumph Speed Triple that had been wrecked, and he was like, yeah, you can ride this. Dude, it was terrifying. It was so scary, but a blast to ride. Totally broke down on the side of the road, ran out of gas, the usual stuff. Everything was easily fixable. And I was super grateful. And it was one of those weird things where, somebody who I kind of knew in passing at that point, Pat and I didn't know each other that well. He had been out to Colorado, and, we'd ridden together. And for him to just be like, yeah, you can ride one of my bikes, no problem, man. That is like kind of the essence of this culture, and I don't expect that of anyone by any means. But when it happens, I'm like, wow, that's a big deal to me, So, anyways,
so
good
hey,
times.
Ditch is on with us on Facebook. She said the new bobber is looking nice. She's listened to your Sugar Bear interview and thinks it's killer. RJ Powell is with us from West Virginia. RJ, what's up?
Nice. Nice.
Dave Campbell, we're still here. So. Moving through the news, let's keep on it because we're bound to get behind today.
Triumph's cool. They've got some great new models coming out. We're hoping to ride some more. We rode 2 last year. We're hoping to ride some more for this next year, in 2018, and hopefully be able to give you guys the scoop on that as well.
Right on. So Jason Sims,
yeah,
Motorcycle Cannonball is set. The schedule's out.
Yeah, 2018. That's super exciting. I know. I saw somewhere on social media. I saw Chris Summer Simmons said she was getting Effie out and checking it out. Trying to get things rocking and rolling there. I think this vintage movement, although kind of a niche within a niche, it's got legs, and it's the idea of that race, and I say race, I use that term. It's kind of like Sons of Speed, in terms of, like, yes, there is a real winner, but holy moly, it's so much more than that. It's so much a test of kind of mental fortitude and, grit, that it's just, it's astounding to me, that they basically ride from coast to coast on, glorified bicycles.
You know what's really funny is the fact that this has not been going on that long. It's all happened within this last decade, but I I can't imagine a time where there wasn't a cannonball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's become such a staple. It really has, that it's just, you look forward to it. And there's like comic book characters that come out of this, man. You know what I mean? Like you said, Chris and Effie, and that's even translated to David Yule artwork. And it's such an important part of our culture today. Just like I believe Billy Lanesdale will be. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and actually, Tom, who's on with us, he's building a killer. Don't know what year. Board tracker that he's going to be racing in March, and I've been following along with that. And you guys can kind of go look him up as well and see this white board tracker that he's put together. And man, it's so cool. And the thing that's cool about it is that he was there at the first race in Daytona, and although hadn't necessarily worked a ton on that vintage kind of bike, he knows motors. He knows motorcycles, he knows motors, he knows how things work, and he would just like dove in there, just hopped in and just started helping out, specifically with X's bike, because he needed kind of somebody to pit him, and he started doing that and just caught the bug, and now he's going to be racing. And I think for all you people out there that are like, oh, I don't know how to do that, how do I go show up? Stop talking, show up. Go to Daytona, show up, get in the pits and go, how can I help?
Hey, from what I understand, Roadside Marty has all the parts that we need for a 45, and I think we're going to have a Cycle Source team on hand. Cycle Source Flat Broke will have a 45 to field at Daytona this year.
Wow.
Right?
That sounds super premature, Chris, but awesome. You're like, hey, he's got a box of parts, it's gonna happen.
Hey, listen, and that's the spirit of Sons of Speed. I mean, we're gonna go down a week before. It's gonna be something that's cobbled together and completely dangerous and totally awesome.
Sure. Yeah, nice. Hey, at least you're gonna have real tires on there. Like that's the piece that terrifies me, is those wheels, and just watching. I mean, I was maybe 15 feet from Rhett when he crashed.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like right there, and if I, had a camera, but I mean, there are pictures of it happening, frame by frame.
Or how about Josh from Moonshiners? He was never in control of that motorcycle. I don't know what was going on, but like he was never let off the throttle, but never in control. Yeah.
And so to watch that happen and to be that close and to go, like these are the like true gladiators, of kind of modern motorcycle racing. And as cool as flat track is, and as cool as, super bikes are, and as cool as this is, like they're working on their bikes. They know how to work on them, for the most part. They're getting them ready. They're doing, and they're learning a ton, and it's pretty awesome to see.
So, hey man, I have something in from the desk of batshit crazy news today. No, seriously. Harley Davidson of Fargo employee says he was laid off for buying same brand elsewhere. Did you see this?
No, you got to be kidding me.
Dude, I'm totally serious. So, like, now they're getting the whole whistleblower thing in and everything, and he was literally waiting for them. I guess he had contacted somebody in sales at the dealership he worked at, and he wanted to trade his bike in to get something a little less expensive, and they didn't get back to him. They weren't getting back to him. He got frustrated. He started contacting some other dealers and bought a bike somewhere else, and they laid him off.
Are you kidding me?
I'm totally serious. It's all over the news.
That's so unacceptable.
Oh, man, come on. Like I said, hard times are a time to look at each other and see what you can do for somebody else, not to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, for sure. But agreed.
Had to bring it up because it's batshit crazy news.
That is batshit crazy. One of the other things that we were talking about is, did you get anything up about AFT, American Flat Track?
As a matter of fact,
I know we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it almost every week, and the reason being is, and this is, the thing that fascinates me about this as, I'm going to say proto-journalist, as well as a marketing person.
What the hell was a proto-journalist?
I have a hard time saying like that I'm a full on journalist because I have a bias. I have a full on like information bias. Anyway. Is the fact that they've taken this brand, because flat track has been around forever, right? They started American Flat Track, a year ago? Is that right? I don't even know. I don't even know if it was a real brand before a year ago.
No.
Because I think everything else was AMA, right? And so it was just, they took this brand.
Technically, it's a rebrand. You know what I mean? Which I think the AMA Flat Track absolutely needed, and I've been watching all the work that they're doing. There's absolutely no arguing with it now when you see what they've done with this.
It's phenomenal. I mean, they obviously must have had a lot of working capital to go and do the things that they've done, but to get Harley and Indian as well as all the other OEMs to start throwing money at it. I mean, right now there is more money. I think that was the big headline that I saw. So Vance and Hines signed a 2-year sponsorship agreement. That's huge. And then there was another. I'm trying to find the other piece, but it was basically that there's a ton of. American Flat Track contingency postings near $2 million and growing.
Can you imagine?
That is so great.
Can you imagine?
Man,
absolutely,
it's so great. And what is so funny is I just imagine people in their ivory towers at some of these OEMs being like, no, we're gonna win. Like, we need to win. And it's like that like bravado, that we all share, to some extent, where it's like, oh no, we gotta win. Like, how are we gonna win? And it's right now their idea is, we can only have so many teams that we can post, right? And for them to put up contingency money to privateers, right, which is what they're talking about, is a great way to motivate people to go ride their brand.
I actually have
and win.
I actually have the money breakdown now. It's $562,000 from Harley, $358,000 Indian, $356 Kawasaki, $211 Yamaha, $88,000 Husqvarna. That's one of my favorite brands.
Yeah.
S&S has $80,000 in. American Honda with $70,000. Dunlop with $54,000.
Can you not hear that phone?
Oh yeah, I absolutely can. I'm not getting it. I won't do it.
I'm like, did you turn it off? Yeah, no, I didn't expect
Hey, new studio, same old bullshit. The dog's not barking yet. Give me a break.
Yeah, you got a Christmas tree in the background.
Hey, but
anyway, super cool stuff going on with AFT, and I'm excited about Daytona. You and I need to motivate this year though, and make sure that we get our press passes so we can be on the dirt during the races.
Absolutely, one of the hardest venues to actually get press clearance from. I have no idea why.
Super difficult, yeah.
But. So yeah, crazy busy time in the news.
So here's this is something that I haven't talked to you about, but I wanna talk to you about it. I talked to Elisa yesterday. We're gonna start putting stuff up. So we're gonna do I believe it's the 4th or maybe the 5th annual Aiden's Ride Sturgis. I know we are 8 months out, right?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other Aiden's rides happening
and
between now.
Go quick.
Yeah, and so this is what I want to do, Chris. I want to get at least 3 companies to sponsor buying a mini bike. Okay? They're like $400, right? Cycle Source is good for one, right?
Yep.
And then we'll basically send those out to a customizer, right? So it could be flat broke chops and rods, maybe. I don't know. And they customize it, and then at the end of what's cool this year about the end of the Aiden's Ride Sturgis is we end up at the Sportster show at the Chip with a live auction. So I want to have these three mini bikes, which will hopefully encourage somebody to buy this for his kid, right? Like, we don't want some crazy chopper thing. Like, we want something rideable, but that's a little tricked out and cool. Has a cool paint job, maybe a couple little cool things on it. So it's encouraging kids to go ride. B, raising money for the Aiden Jack Seeger Foundation, and C, kind of giving some of these, customizers an opportunity to kind of reach out to the younger folks. What do you think about my idea?
I'll do you one better than that.
All right.
So we haven't announced this yet, but we're actually going to have mini bike races this year in Sturgis inside the property at the Iron Horse Broken Spoke. So through that whole that compound, we're going to have celebrity mini bike races. I'll talk to the guys there and make it so that the people who win the mini bikes from that event can come down for one-time special race.
Nice.
Right?
There we go. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun. There's a company that I reached out to, and they said, for 2018 they just can't figure it out. But I mean, I think they're literally $400 or something.
Oh yeah, we can make that happen. Who we can
get three. I think we can get three companies to do that. So, anyways, I was talking to Elisa yesterday, and she was like, "That sounds amazing," because it's been cool. Like the helmet thing is great.
Yeah.
But I want to do something different. I want to do something that actually goes back to the kids, and can encourage kids to go ride. And those mini bikes are it. So.
Yep, absolutely. So, hey, listen, while we're here talking about it, if you see up in the corner of the screen there is the JMP Cycles logo. This part of the show has been brought to you by JMP Cycles, constantly supporting us with Grease and Gears Garage with the show here, and we just want to send a big thank you out to them. Always helping us out. JP, kicking ass.
Definitely.
In the news also, real quick before we get to our interview today, Gino, Old School Rods. You guys remember Gino from the years that he was part of the Horse magazine. Has Old School Rods and CK Deluxe. Well, Old School Rods is celebrating 15 years this year as the voice of the traditional rodder. You can get them at the same places you get Cycle Source magazine, the Walmarts, all the bookstores. Get out and support them. 15 is a hell of an accomplishment. Our compliments go out to Gino. He's been a very, very good fan and friend of the magazine for a long time. So go check them out. Check them out on their website.
Nice.
And I think it's interview time.
Is it? Awesome.
We got to work on our transitions. We need something like
I don't think we need it, and I don't think we need any transitions. The thing that I despise like morning radio, like, hey, who's up in the sky? All right, we're done with that, and we're going to the woo, all right. Like that is not, that format does not. I don't think it translates to the internet. I think what we're doing here is we're having a conversation that people are listening into.
Well, wait, let me try this one at least.
Ooh.
That's my transition. Best I could do.
Leave a message.
At the tone, please record your message.
Mr. Ball.
Call.
Dad.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Nope. I love it when things go like that.
It's just the way it is.
So my big transition. We'll try it one more time. So the guest that we're bringing on is, like I said earlier in the show, one of my heroes from journalism. He's been involved in motorcycle rights forever. He was instrumental in the beginning of the Easy Riders.
Hello?
Mr. Ball.
Yes, sir.
You're live with Chris and Ken. Over.
What's that?
I said you're live with Chris and Ken. Over.
Oh, you're kidding. I thought this was 2 o'clock.
It's 2:39 now.
Yeah, it's only 11:30 here.
That's the EST. Did we catch you at a bad time?
Yeah, I had a sort of an emergency post office delivery I had to make, but I made it. I'm in my van heading back to the headquarters.
Okay. How about we'll come back to you in about 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. All right, you got those pictures okay?
I did. Thank you.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you in 20 minutes.
All right, bye. Okay. So,
Perfect.
like I said, new studios, same old bullshit. Here, wait. I have another one. While we're waiting for Mr. Ball, and that will be a good interview. So don't go anywhere.
Oh,
on
for
that.
sure.
I have another guest in mind.
Okay. Just calling him, just cold calling him.
Yep.
They have no idea. That's perfect.
Hello, this is Keith Ball.
It's not Keith Ball. This is Billy Grotto. What's up, baby?
What's going on? Happy New Year. What's up, Ken? What's going on, Chris?
How are you, Billy?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. I'm here in sunny South Florida while the rest of the country's getting some weather, man. I look out there and I say, man, it's not that cold in my freezer in my house.
Wait a minute. Whatever system you're using, whatever phone and service you're using right now is what everybody should use, because you sound like you're in the studio.
Right?
Hey, that's great. I love it. Verizon. Gotta love them.
It sounds like you're right there. Nice.
So, Billy, man, we've been all over the country this year together, and I wanted to get you on the air today real quick and just thank you for everything. And it was in celebration of Cycle Source Magazine's. Yeah, there you go. Cycle Source
There it
Magazine's 20th anniversary. Actually made the cover, which I haven't had my own bike on the cover since Volume 1, Issue 1. And Billy was completely responsible for getting that whole deal together, and we did everything with that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man. I mean, it was beyond. You know, it's funny too, because as I went to the mailbox today, I got my subscription and my latest Cycle Source, and look what's on the cover. Lo and behold, it's a little twisted chopper. I said, today's gonna be a good day.
Right on.
Nice.
So, some of the cool stuff that we did this year, Ken, we started the year off with the Sick Boys open house party in Daytona. We did a Calendar Girl contest. Where was that? At the Full Moon Saloon?
Yeah. That was at Main Street Station.
Main Street Station. And like I said, just everywhere. One of the biggest highlights was, of course, we were on stage at the Buffalo Chip right before Ozzy went on stage with the bike. We weren't allowed to start it or ride it, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Well, the last guy that started a bike and rode it on the Buffalo Chip stage, you know know how that story ended. So
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So probably a good thing that we didn't get to start it that night, Chris.
But I'll tell you what, man, like for me, that was that motorcycle. It's an absolute blast to ride. The fact that in George the Painter's article about it, because he wrote the actual story this month for the issue, he talked about how yellow bikes are stupid, and they're people who just want attention, and just everything bad about a yellow bike. And then he gets to the end of the paragraph and he said, except this one. So I think that bike was a huge victory, because we pulled off such a great looking motorcycle, and it fit the entire purpose. So I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, it was something else. When we did the reveal in Daytona for Bike Week, we stood around the parking lot. It was me, Chris, Heather, and a couple of the builders. I know RJ was there, and we looked at each other and we said, this little beer company and this little magazine did something more exciting in Daytona for Bike Week than any manufacturer in the industry. And that's not a dig on anybody. I mean, they've done great things, but we were the belle of the ball, I believe, for Daytona Bike Week and throughout the rally season, culminating with the giveaway in Lone Star. But yeah, I mean, when we had that bike up on stage at the Chip, I mean, that was probably most exhilarating thing I'd ever done before. So that was really, really special.
Right on. So hey, I'm gonna let you chime in here, and you have some news to announce about this program moving forward now for next year.
That's right. You know, we were so happy with just the bike and just the partnership, everything from beginning to end, with the little twisted chopper, that I was able to convince them to have us build another bike. So we are going to do another bike with Cycle Source this year, and we're thrilled about it. And you guys were just talking about what's really popular and what's really got everybody's attention these days, and that's flat track racing. So
you ready?
Chris and the guys, yeah. I mean,
you ready to put the picture up and do the reveal? This is
let's do it. Let her rip. Let's see it.
There it is. The T-Tracker.
The T-Tracker. Oh man,
nice.
it's gonna be something else when you see this bike. I mean, and then, you know, when Chris sent me the mock-ups, and a couple of them went back and forth, but he had gotten the inspiration for the paint scheme and stuff from our number 13 car, because we're with Richard Childress Racing, and Ty Dillon's our driver, and you know, he took a look at that and said, you know, hey, how can I incorporate that into the bike? Because, you know, at the heart of both machines is racing. Yeah. So the color scheme, I mean, the way that that's going to lay out, it's going to be fantastic. I mean, I really can't wait to see that thing happen.
That's cool, man. And it all, for me, it adds up to what's going to be a fantastic year again this year, getting to, you know, spend time with you and the T-Girls going around the country again. But what do you have in store for this year? What's your schedule look like so far?
Well, you know, I mean, I guess for me, what I look at every year is equal to or greater than. And, you know, there's so many rallies, you know, you just can't get to all of them. So the ones that I do get to, I want to make sure that they're the most impactful. So I'll pretty much follow the same schedule as I had last year, but whenever I can pick up an event and it's, you know, what I like to call, you know, geographically astute, you know, so I'm not zigzagging all over the country. If I can fit it in my trajectory, you know, I'll hit up another rally wherever I can. You know, so that's going to be awesome. That's going to be really exciting. And like I said, I mean, we got the number 13 car, so we got 4 key races that we're going to be the primary, which is a big deal for a little company like us. We got a new flavor, Twisted Tea, coming out. It's Huckleberry. And then RJ, I know you're listening, so you're probably going to be calling me up, asking me to get you some samples, and I will. But outside of that, we're just really excited and looking forward to another great year, because you know, the motorcycle industry, I mean, it's got its ups and downs, but like, we're not in the like shoe business. You know, right. We're not in like the copier business. I mean, at the end of the day, if you had a good day or a bad day, I mean, we're in the motorcycle industry. How cool is that?
That's it, baby. That's
for sure.
So I'm kind of thinking that at one point or another, this thing has to make an appearance at a hooligan race, right?
I'd say. I mean, you know, we can't build this thing without it having racing. You know, that we'd lose a lot. We'd lose a lot of credibility there. Okay,
so earlier on Facebook, Fenton Fadley had made a comment about how he'd be more than willing to pilot the Assault Flight bike. We're gonna hold you to that and bring you out to a hooligan race and put you on this thing.
Danger,
that'd be great.
Danger.
What could go wrong? Heather right now is already typing up release forms.
Exactly, yeah. Release of liability.
Here, hold my Twisted Tea. Watch this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now Billy's whole company just took a giant deep breath.
Well, you did. Yeah, luckily, half of them are on vacation this week, so I don't think we're in trouble just yet.
Nice.
Well, man, I'm super stoked about it. I know, and I should preface this by saying, you know, this is a team effort. You know, Mark obviously at Flat Broke with me, Roadside. RJ will be part of this again. Matt Real. I'm already talking to Matt. If you look real close at that bike, you'll see that there's a double intake on it, which means we're going to have to figure out how to put 2 front cylinder heads on this bike, and Matt's already doing his homework about that, so the whole thing's going to be pretty badass, and and we're all stoked about it. So it's going to be another great year with that.
Yeah, it sure is. I can't wait. It's gonna be out of this world, man.
And that bike's going to get given away as well? Is that correct?
Yeah, yep. It'll be another sweepstakes bike, and the entry form, you can either there's a text option, but then also we're trying to get everybody's photographs. So if they post a picture and the hashtag is unwind with a twist, and the theme of it is kind of like, show us how you unwind with the twist after the ride, and those pictures will be entered into the sweepstakes. They're all assigned a number, and then that number is just picked at random, and there'll be a lucky winner.
Cool. Just like there was this year, right?
Just like there was this year, exactly. I know there was a little blowback there because some people put together some tremendous videos. They were hilarious. They were just super, super over the top and a lot of fun, but legally, we couldn't. It wasn't a popularity contest. It was sweepstakes.
Random.
And you know what?
It's random.
I got to take some responsibility for that right now. I want to get on the record and say that because we were doing this stuff so fast, and Billy's corporate team was trying to keep up with us, but we were out on microphones everywhere saying, hey, make the coolest video and all of this, and we didn't understand that legally the way that it had to come down was, it had to be completely random. Impartial and random, and so I sort of take responsibility for that myself.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I think a lot of people had a lot of fun, and it was kind of like, I guess what you say, shame on us or our bad or whatever. But have a tea and get over it, I guess.
But ultimately, right? They got to have like a creative moment, that they might not have had previously, and not only that. That whatever video they did, maybe it got sent out, maybe you guys put it out on your, social media or whatever, and they got, exposure. So I don't know. I just don't think it's a bad thing when people are being creative and doing something that might be out of their norm, so.
Oh yeah, totally, Ken. You nailed it. Cause some of those videos, they get a ton of views on the Instagram and, on the other social media outlets. So yeah, you're right. It wasn't a total loss if somebody spent a lot of time on their video.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately that's, I'm sure Billy, you and I have done, and Chris, we've done a ton of sweepstakes over the years, and there's always somebody upset afterwards that they didn't win. I'm always surprised, when and if I actually do win something, which I think it's happened once in my life, maybe. And so, I always find it amusing when people think, they expect to win. I'm like, I just wasn't brought up that way. Anyway.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Billy, man. Listen, I hope you had a great holiday, buddy, in the new year. I hope it's going to bring everything for you.
Yeah, and same to you, and Ken, same to you, and Heather, and everybody in the Cycle Source BikerNet family. Have a great new year. And ride safe. Oh, you know what, Chris? I forgot. Did you get those cookies I sent you?
Yeah, baby. I just got them this morning. That's exactly what I needed. Did you see a picture of me? I'm getting heavier by the second.
Listen, that's all right. New Year's resolutions just a few days away.
Oh, you're not kidding. I'm so going on the wagon.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Well, hey, Billy, I want to get. Hey, Billy, I want to get you on the record. Will you be a guest on my Forever Two Wheels podcast? I want to hear all about your motorcycle adventure so we can get you, 45 minutes, maybe an hour sometime where you and I can just talk.
Oh, Ken, I'd love it.
Awesome.
If you'll have me, I'd be thrilled to be there. You bet.
That'd be great.
How long you been doing this now, man? We were just talking about you and like the history. You're another one of these people that you can't show up somewhere and miss running into. You're always there. You're at every spot. How long you been kicking this?
Well, I've been on the motorcycle detail since 2010. So just for 7 short years. But I've been with Boston Beer for 19 years. And I've been riding for a while too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, I just started riding, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm like this big bad biker either. Chris, when your motorcycle breaks down, you break out the tools. When my motorcycle breaks down, I break out the AAA card. And I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say that, okay? It's all right.
We're working on that with you, though. We're working on that. We're going to break you in.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah,
man.
but Ken, I'd love to, man. Just let me know. I'd love to be on your podcast.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Well, cool, baby. I guess we're going to sign out for now, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Daytona, and keep us in mind. You got anything cool coming up that you need us to put into the report? Let us know.
Yeah, I sure will. Thanks for everything, you guys. Thanks for great 2017, and looking forward to 18. Bigger, better.
All right, Billy, take it easy, buddy.
Awesome.
All right, you guys. Happy New Year. See you.
One of the best people in this whole thing.
Yes. Great guy.
Really
Great guy. And I love, his energy and creativity. Him and I had a conversation, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, about a potential program. And I really like getting on the phone with people who are creative and want to do something different, and even if it doesn't necessarily come together exactly the way that we wanted to, I love the idea of kind of, that creative process and working with people who are, energetic and interested and want to, kind of move forward. So
absolutely,
that's always exciting.
So, hey, when we were talking about your interview with Sugar Bear, I forgot to mention, and I'm going to bring it up now, that
yeah, you better.
Yeah,
You're going to get a text.
Right? And,
no, you're not going to get a text. You're going to get a phone call. He's going to be like, Chris, this is Bear.
Hey, man,
why didn't you mention it? Why didn't you mention that?
So, yeah, the big news that comes out of the Sugar Bear camp is that Sugar Bear is quickly on his way to building the Chopper Museum in Sturgis. And every time I look at this website, there's more and more information. And you see a little video up here where you can see the property.
Yep. And there's a ton of information in that article that I wrote, as well as in the interview. He talks about it a ton.
Yeah. It's going to be fantastic. I mean, I can't even imagine the kind of logistics that are behind something like this, but if anybody can pull it together, it'll be Bear for sure. So we're all behind him, trying to help him out with that. Go check him out at the sugarbearchoppermuseum.org. And there you have your opportunities to participate, donate, do what you can.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's calling it Chopper Town. I think he's calling it Chopper Town in Sturgis. And people are going to be able to go out there this year. He's going to have some tents set up. I'm not sure about what else is going to be there, other than there are going to be some vintage, very historic kind of choppers there that people can check out. He'll be on the property most of the time. There's rumors that there are going to be some other significant historians in the chopper movement there as well.
Ken, I swear to God, I don't even know where that phone is.
And somebody's not answering it.
No.
So, but I think it's going to be a great year for that. People are always looking for things to do, and Sugar Bear, I couldn't think of a better person to do it, because it's not some kind of contrived idea where, it's some guy who's like your age or my age, that's going out there and being like, oh, let's do a chopper museum and get let's brand this and make it cool, and so we can make a bunch of, or whatever. Like, we got to save. It's like one of their own.
Yeah.
He is chopper history. So to have him,
I love it when you're sitting there talking with him and Fuji, and she says, well, Bear's doing this because he's one of the OG.
And he is.
He is, I know, but just in her soft-spoken way, it's wild to hear that.
But if you ask him, he will tell you that he's not, because he has no qualms about telling you kind of who his mentors were,
right?
And who he learned it from. And I think that can be lost these days. You and I both know a bunch of guys out there who have started their own shops and haven't had the opportunity of having that mentor, and had to go through a lot of tough times where it's You know, they could have been saved some of the headache by just having somebody out there who'd been through it before. You know, that's why whenever anybody, you know, comes into the motorcycle industry, and they're interested in kind of doing what I do,
Yeah.
like I am more than happy to talk to them. You know, there's plenty of stuff to do out there, and it, you know, and it's fine. You know, it's like, call me. I'm an open book. You know, you want to ask like how you write for a motorcycle magazine, or how you be a, you know, how you can end up being a test rider, or how you can, you know, end up, you know, doing motorcycle stuff for the rest of your life. You know,
Give up on
call
anything
me, message
productive
me, whatever.
financially.
Exactly. Yeah. First of all, have no tie to having any future financially, unless you invest in cryptocurrency. Anyway.
Hey. All right, so we're gonna try this again. Let's see what happens when I hit this button.
Coming over.
Mr. Ball, you're live. Over.
Uh-oh.
How's it going today?
Good.
Emergency trip to the post office. What could that possibly mean?
Well, it was kind of interesting. I came back from Cuba, and I was sick. You know, I had a little dysentery from Cuba, and the redhead told me I had an order for one of my Bonneville books, so I filled it. Well, as it turned out, I had two orders, one right after the other, and I missed one.
Oops.
So this woman called me this morning and said, you know, it's for her son-in-law, and she was desperate to get it. And so I got it to the post office. It'll be delivered by 3 o'clock tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love people who keep their word.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, there's the hot topic. You were just in Cuba. That's like the trip of a lifetime, man. Everybody's been waiting to get to Cuba to see what they have as far as the old bikes and the old cars. You got to tell us about that.
Well, everything in Cuba is represented with an American car. And occasionally they use a Harley Davidson. But I never saw a Harley Davidson while I was there. But I saw a lot of old cars. And I tell you, I went to this, I went through Havana, and I went to this place called Cienfuegos, is a port town, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's an amazing port in a bay, and the roads are wider because you get the different eras. And so like Havana can have some really narrow streets, but Cienfuegos has wider streets. Trinidad was even before the French and the Spanish. It's got really narrow cobblestone streets. But you can go down to Cienfuegos, and if you just kind of do one of those deals like you smoke a joint and you think back, you can imagine in 1955 driving down this major street, and all the buildings are beautiful, and their architecture is amazing, and there's some buildings from the Spanish, there's some buildings from the French, there's some modern hotels from the United States, and there's these beautiful new 1955 American vehicles driving up. You can imagine that place was amazing in 1955.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got a tour in a 54 Ford, and it was, you know, this thing was just beat to death. The guy it was like it was painted with a brush. The seats were from a different car, so they just kind of wedged them into place. You know, that one was rough. And then later on, a week later, I got a tour in like a 52 Plymouth or something like that. And this guy was doing a beautiful restoration on this thing. it was all the right parts. Everything was beautiful. It was, it was just really well done.
Nice.
So, but everything you see, every painting, every etching, all have old buildings and American cars.
That's cool. And you were just down there
Yeah.
for vacation? Did you actually take a vacation?
Well, you can. And actually, one of the guides, I spent a couple of days in Havana. Then I went to Cienfuegos, and I got on a catamaran with a group.
Man.
There was like four catamarans, and we sailed out to the islands off the coast of Cuba. Then I went back. I spent a day in Cienfuegos and in the town of Trinidad, that's like 50 miles south of that, and then went back to Havana to catch my flight back. But one of the guides said the new Trump regulations really are no different than the ones before. It's just that the media made such a big deal out of it that people quit coming down.
Wow.
So, I hate to waste time on this too much, but it's really something we need to think about in this country, because you look at Cuba and what these people have gone through, and they were indoctrinated to believe that the rich were bad. So Fidel took all the wealth from the country, kicked everybody out or killed everybody who was wealthy so that he could own everything. So at the end of the day, and then he indoctrinated people to think that wealth is a bad thing. So nobody was wealthy except him.
Right.
So,
That's tough.
So these people have been living on a stipend. They get like little chips that they can go get food with. They're not allowed the currency I was allowed to use. They can't use, so that they can monitor how much money somebody has.
Yep.
And then one of my guides was he was a Fidel guy. He had been indoctrinated. He knew the government line. Then the next guide I had, his wife had a master's degree from the local college. She taught at the local college. Well, she had the opportunity to go to Angola. And so she went to Angola and taught. She did some work. Well, she made a lot of money while she was in Angola. So she comes back, and Fidel has died, and she gets to buy her family a house. Now, so she buys the family a house. She goes back to work at the university and then quits. She had the opportunity to understand how much money she should be making with her education. And she went back to Cuba and said she's getting ripped off, so she quit. She just went and got a little part-time job someplace and can raise her family and enjoy herself.
What's that?
So what? It's a real storybook about a country that has no freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you were down there just for vacation? It was just purely a pleasure kind of deal?
Well, I was doing a drug deal, but we really shouldn't talk about it.
So it's
priceless. Priceless. Well, listen, man. Let me break in here for a second. So I started this segment badly. For me, obviously, people who've been reading Easy Riders as long as I have, you don't need much of an introduction. I've been a fan of your writing forever. Really, over the years, though, man, you've really become a renaissance man. Everything from, motorcycle rights work to, the stuff that you've done in the magazines, to the fact that Ken and I were talking earlier, you started BikerNet when nobody was really believing, not even your own publisher had believed in the fact that the internet was going to have the kind of weight that it did. You started BikerNet 20 years ago now. You've moved through art. Keith does beautiful, beautiful welding, sculpture art. I mean, your life is so much about the experience, man. It's been a pleasure to watch it from afar.
Well, I sure appreciate that. You know, it's been a wild ride, and is that dog trying to ask me a question or what?
I think Chris just cut himself off so we don't have to listen to it anymore.
Well, I've just been real lucky, and I've sort of lived my own dream, you know. So.
Well, and the other thing that that I think hopefully a lot of our readers know or listeners know is that you are also the author of our in the back of the magazine. You do the news every month. I'm trying to find it in this current issue. Of course, I can't. And I think that's super valuable to our readers because it gives people kind of the down and dirty, quick view of what it is, of what's going on in the motorcycle. So it's actually called the World Report. So people can see it there. And it's really a kind of a distillation of what's happened. And because of your position in the media, as well as the fact that Chris publishes his magazine pretty quickly, it's actually pretty timely news, which doesn't happen in a lot of the other publications. So I know that Chris is, forever indebted to you for being able to provide that for us, and be able to kind of give people the down and dirty as to what's going on in the magazine. As well as, I don't know if a lot of people know, but you've got, I don't know how many books you've written. You've been involved in a bunch of different film projects. Pretty much everybody in the motorcycle industry. So anybody that hasn't gone and checked out bikernet.com should, because there is a wealth of information there, a ridiculous amount of information,
Ken,
articles, bikes, everything.
The news pages in Cycle Source used to be a filler for me. You know what I mean? Like, we just throw whatever we could at the end of the issue, and it's really like I am completely indebted to Keith because it's turned into something that's such a good part of the magazine now under his guard.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot going on, and I wish more people read because, and I'm sure, Chris, you feel the same way. I wish more people were involved. I almost every week when I do my news on BikerNet or when I do the news for Cycle Source, I always mention to guys that you should join your local motorcycle rights group. I don't care which one it is.
Yep.
Join one, and get involved in whatever way you can,
So I think the story that I want to hear, because I've heard so many of Mr. Ball's stories over the years. I want to hear the story about how you got involved with Easy Riders, because I don't think I've ever asked you that. I don't think how you originally met any of those cats and got to hang around and get involved.
Well, it is sort of an interesting story, and I've told it 1,000 times, but I did 3 tours in Vietnam. I was in the Navy. I was on the First Fleet flagship. It was a heavy cruiser. So I did 3 tours of Vietnam, and then I was stationed on a destroyer, but then I got out of the service, and I immediately started to go to school on the GI Bill to go back to college. Well, I was also building bikes, and I was like 21 years old, 22 years old. And I lived in a little duplex with a single car garage, and it was rapidly filling with tools and motorcycle parts. And so I was helping a buddy of mine that I went to high school with build a knucklehead. And we were just about to finish it, and this new magazine came out, Easy Riders. And I just thought, what the hell? And I wrote a little postcard to the editor. I said, oh, I just finished a bike. You know, you might want to check it out. Well, as it turned out, the publisher, Lou Kimsey, was running the magazine out of a little apartment house, one apartment in this little apartment house in Seal Beach, which was only 5 miles from me, you know, from in Long Beach. So Lou Kimsey came over to Brad's house. His name was Brad Kerner, and to look at his knucklehead. Well, he liked the knucklehead, but he really liked my bike, and my bike was a rigid frame with a shovel head engine in it, and I had put 80-inch flywheels in it, and so it was an 80-inch stroker, which was supposed to be like a big deal then, you know, but it was a rat bike. And so Lou offered to feature both the bikes. And so we set up a shoot in the oil fields in Long Beach, and we went out there for the shoot, and Lou and I were talking while Pete Chido was shooting the bikes. And I told him that I wasn't happy with the way these guys were treating their customers at this bike shop I was working at. You know, and I about pleaded with these guys to give me a job, you know. Shit, I knew nothing except, you know, I think I had rebuilt one panhead engine and you know, I was really a novice, but I managed to get a job at this shop. But I just didn't like the way these guys treated their customers. And I mentioned that to Lou, and Lou asked me if I'd come by the office in Seal Beach. So I went by the office, and he offered me a job. He offered to pay me $50 a week to work part-time and be the manager of a bait.
No kidding. So
wow.
That's how I started. I was still going to college, and I would come there. You know, I don't even remember if it was 2 or 3 or 4 days a week for a couple hours. And my job was just to kind of work with guys who were writing in, and we were offering to set up chapters, and we didn't want to have any rules. We would just kind of help the guys get as much information to fight helmet laws basically at that time as possible. And I helped set up 28 chapters and build that organization to about 30,000 members. I don't remember how many it was, but it was a lot of guys at the time. So a couple of months after I started, I already started writing little stories, and I started writing bike features for Lou, because Lou was basically him and an art director and Joanne, the secretary. They were doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and so I started doing it, and next thing you knew, I was an associate editor, and you know, and so the story goes, and it's, you know, it continues, but that's how I got started.
That's great.
So Ken, I can tell you about stuff from the beginning of Cycle Source magazine. You know, the days where everybody was hanging around with the magazine and we were all still partying really heavy. And we used to have a rule where to talk at one of the magazine meetings, you had to have the tequila bottle in your hand. And this was Cycle Source history. I can't even imagine what those early days were like with you guys, Keith.
Well, there were some good parties, but you know, a lot of it was, you know, shit. I was like the biker on the staff, you know, and so, yeah, it was fascinating times, and
whatever happened to Lou?
It's so fortunate we survived it, you know.
Oh, right on.
Well, Lou, I worked for Lou for 10 years, and I became the editor of the magazine and the editor of In the Wind, but Lou was, he was the publisher, he was the main man. And we had moved to Malibu, and the company bought a tennis resort, an old tennis resort. My office was actually a hotel room. I had a shower. It was amazing. We were up in the hills at Malibu. It was just
wow,
just completely amazing. Now and we had a swimming pool, so you can imagine we had some parties around.
Oh my
the
God!
Pool.
Yeah.
You name it. So
yeah.
But where was I going with that?
I was asking what happened to Lou.
Oh, Lou. So I worked for Lou until 81, from like 71 to 81. And he really got to be kind of a heavy drug user, and he was a diabetic, and he needed to take better care of himself. But we started to have some battles, and I finally just said, I think I'll go do something else. And so I quit. And then in between 81 and 86, the other two partners, Mill Blair was a partner, and so was Joe Teresi. And Mill and Joe ran Jammer Cycle, which was originally D&D Distributors, and then became Jammer Cycles. And there was a bunch of upheaval, and they started fighting amongst themselves, and Lou ended up out of the picture, and then his diabetes got to him, and he passed away. And I got to see him a few times when Joe asked me if I'd come back to the company in 87. And and I got to see Lou a few times. I bought a 31 VL from him, the guy was a neat guy, and he was very passionate. And
then through that, Joe ended up with the company under his control. Correct.
Joe ended up. Joe ended up with the publishing end of it. Mill Blair ended up with Jammer.
Oh, okay.
At a terrible time, and it was just a bad economic time. He got sued because some guy stuck his thumb in an open belt drive.
Oh, Jesus.
And I don't know why he lost that lawsuit. He shouldn't have, but he ended up just shutting the company down. And Joe ended up with the magazines, and obviously he did very well for a while.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Man, one of the things that I've noticed is through my time with Cycle Source, my 20 years now publishing, I have a line of motorcycles behind me, because you get into the looking at everybody else doing stuff, and you want to try stuff. And I've been lucky enough to become friends with Keith, and he'll let me in when he starts getting the bug on a build. And man, there's just some really, really great bikes have come out of his garage over the years. Whether it's the style of them, like I'm throwing up a picture of some of your bikes now, Keith, but one of them that sticks out most in my head, I actually got to see one of the maiden voyages was the Salt Flat Racer, the world's fastest panhead that you guys put out at Bonneville. And I got to spend that first week out there with you and Barry and the guys racing this thing. It was insane to watch that come down.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Really.
Who piloted that one?
Valerie Thompson.
Okay, yeah.
It's so.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've just been so fortunate in my life. The guy who taught me how to build engines was Bob George. Bob George built the Easy Rider Streamliner. And then I introduced Bob to Joe Teresi, and it became the Jammer Streamliner. But they never got the record back from Don Vesco.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough to be on the team when Joe kind of brought it out of mothballs, and we put it together and went out there in what was it? 2000.
Yeah.
No, it was before then. 1990. We went out there in 1990 and set the world land speed record, and I was on the team the 2 years that they did it, and we set the world land speed record for motorcycles at 321 miles an hour. Then the next time I went out was 2006, and that's when the record was broken, and that's when I took the first panhead out there, and we set a little record with it, and then we built the silver one, the world's fastest panhead. And actually, I'm going out there this year.
I know. I'm super excited about that because I think we're all going. I think this is going to be a really good year for Bonneville. There's a bunch of us going back out. We're actually making plans with that bike that we're building right now called the War Pony.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Well, I had a talk with Steve Massacott yesterday about my trike project, and I told Steve, I said, listen, I'm turning 70 next year. I have to be on the Salt. And
Ken, listen, I've seen this thing firsthand. It's sick. It's sick.
Yeah. We've been dicking around with this thing too long.
For a long time. I remember seeing the embryonic stage of it when I was there interviewing you for my podcast. So, I mean, that was, 3 or 4 years ago at least.
Yeah. So, and, it's just been amazing. I mean, the things that I've had the opportunity to be involved in, the things I've got done, and it's just absolutely out of this world to think about it.
I've heard so many stories from Rogue about you guys in those early stages of A-Bait, even to think about, that this was, Ken, back when A-Bait used to stand for a brotherhood against totalitarian enactment. It was a much more rigid organization than today. But Rogue would tell me stories about what these guys would do, man. I mean, they'd show up on the steps of the Capitol building and hold the government hostage.
Yeah. So interesting. That was and those guys were warriors. I mean, they wouldn't let anything stand in their way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how people got things done.
So, as a writer, Keith, I know you've done a ton of different books. How have you not written your biography? Or is that not till? Or is that not till you're like 90?
Yeah, that's what it has to be. It has to be like when I'm 90.
Yeah, I have to wait for the statute of limitations.
I'm reading a set of books by Winston Churchill, and it's 6 books, and it only covers like 10 years. It covers from like 1935 to just after World War II. Wow, talk about an amazing series of books and what this guy did, and what he lived through. So I don't know why I went there.
Well, that new movie, everybody's talking about Churchill now with the new movie that's coming out. I can't wait to see that, and it's making me go back and read more about him again.
Yeah. I've written 5 fiction books, and I'm going to start another one probably next week. And then I've written 2 or 3 nonfiction books.
Yep.
Yeah. One was about Terry the Tramp, who was the international president of the Vagos for 27 years.
Yep, I read that.
Yeah.
And that's
the guy was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
The Sam Chopper Orwell is one of my favorites, man. It really is, for the parallels of life.
Oh man, we're living through it right now. It's
absolutely
just incredible,
Yep.
Keith and I are fellow conspiracy theorists, Ken.
As long as you don't tell me you're flat, or as long as you don't tell me you're a flat Earth believer, I think we're good. So.
Actually,
oh Jesus! Come on, Keith. You're an educated man.
No, I actually have a friend of mine who believes in flat Earth.
Yes.
And he's a certified welder here down at the port. And I finally had to tell him. I said, "You got to get a grip on that."
It discredits everything else, and it comes out of their mouth, in my opinion. It's like, just look at the horizon. Hello.
Yeah.
That's why you can't see forever.
He got so pissed off at me, he won't ever talk to me again.
That's awesome.
Nice. Good times.
So listen, up on the screen right now, I actually have a shot of the side of your building. If Ken, you've been there also, but the BikerNet, I call Cycle Source World Headquarters as a joke because I've been to Keith's place and it actually is a proper world headquarters. He actually has bunks for visiting reporters to stay so they can become embedded reporters. And man, the picture that I have up, Keith, is the graffiti that's the whole way down the side of the wall, and it's just an amazing thing to sit back and look at, a combination of your history and the Wilmington waterfront history. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Thank you very much. That was probably a 5-year endeavor.
No kidding.
And I imagine when you first bought that place, it was probably nowhere near as nice as it is now in terms of the neighborhood.
Oh no, not at all. not at all. But and the building has been like an artistic work in progress. You just go from room to room, refurbishing, but it's, man, I tell you, I stumbled on this building, and I'm standing out in front of it, and an older gentleman comes out and says, I said, "Is this place for sale?" And he said, yeah. He says, "I've got to sell it. My health's bad. I got to move to Arizona." So I said, would you mind if you showed me through it? And he took me through it, and I swear to God, I was walking through this building, and I'm saying to myself, somebody built a building just for me.
Yeah.
I have got to have this goddamn building. I mean, it just was perfect. I mean, it was really rough, but it was perfect. So,
yeah.
So I jumped on it.
How many years ago was that?
14 years I've been in there.
Wow.
The longest time I've ever been any place.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Amazing.
So
and we've done amazing things here. I wrote a lot of books while I've been here. We built 2 Bonneville land speed record bikes. We built 1 or 2 bikes every year. It's just been.
Man, listen, for the benefit of people who haven't actually been in this property, it's the place where Keith's office is. He has one of 3, right, Keith? That desk with the frame and the Springer. It's, I think, 1 of 3. It's a beautiful, beautiful motorcycle piece of art desk. And from his desk, he looks down over a balcony into the shop. It's like my dream situation for Cycle Source. A 2-story open-air building with the mezzanine contains everything that he does with BikerNet.com. And then he gets to look down over the shop, so that as soon as he's done putting the Thursday news together, down the stairs he goes, and he's back in the shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty ideal.
And I get up in the morning, and I grab a cup of coffee, and I walk out to my desk, and I'm home. I'm there.
Yeah, it's ideal.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of people that have been chiming in from social media. Ditch said, "Holy crap, such an awesome show today. Keith brought back so many memories of A-Bait, the original Chopper magazine. So many thanks for a great show this week." Crazy Dave, is it? Said to tell you what's up, Keith. Hi to Keith
Cool.
from Dangerous Dave. I'm sorry, Dave Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
But everybody's on with us Facebook Live, and they're sending out the props to you. It's been fantastic talking to you. What do you got coming up in 2018 for BikerNet.com?
Well, for BikerNet, we're just going to kind of hold our course, but I'm going to do a new landing page for BikerNet, and and we're going to try. You're the master of social media, but we're trying to step up our game a little bit, and then I'm going to write a book. And I'm going to finish a screenplay. Oh, and we're working on my first bronze sculpture for a hamster charity event, and then we got to be at Bonneville on the Salt Torpedo.
Wow.
So
and see, this is
you got a lot going on.
This is my saving grace. Whenever my wife tells me that I'm involved in doing too much, I can always point to Keith and say, "Come on, really?"
It's what keeps life interesting, right, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. Never a dull moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man.
It's just, we're very fortunate. We can look at the government and see how screwed up they are, but we're absolutely fortunate to be able to do what we can do. And we got to spend some time fighting to keep the freedom alive.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's it. Now more than ever, because I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
The one thing the two things that government doesn't give back ever, and that's money and freedom. And they're ready to take them both.
Yeah.
Well, and on a personal level, making sure that we pass this on to kind of the next generation, of bikers, riders, etc., and making sure that they have the opportunities that we've had, if not more.
Absolutely. And really, to me, all it takes is a couple of things: a little bit less regulation and a little bit more money in their pockets.
Yep.
Let's
Agreed.
have them smiling again and buying parts.
Yeah,
Agreed.
right
Agreed.
Yeah.
Awesome, Keith. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. For anybody that's interested in hearing more about Keith, you can go to forever2wheels.com or 4e2w.com, and you can hear the interview that I did with him a few years ago. I'm sure we'll have him on again, but it's been great having you on. So thanks for being here.
Oh, you bet, and thank you guys, and may we all have absolutely magnificent New Year's.
You bet.
Right on, Keith. Thank you very much for the time today.
All right, you guys take care and ride
Thanks.
free.
All right, you too.
He's the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we do this show, right, Chris? I mean, you and I talking is great, but to listen to those stories, I mean, that's really, for me at least, that's what makes me energized, excited about, keeping going with what we're doing, because I think there are times where, I know at least for me, I'm not going to speak for yourself, but, there are times where I'm like, man, if I was in a different industry, I'd be making more money and have more time or whatever, but I wouldn't have the artistic freedom, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the history, et cetera, that we have in this industry. So I'm super grateful.
We could have went on for another hour. And
I know.
I
just didn't want to dominate his time. I'm like, we've had him on for 40 minutes now.
The amount of history that man contains and was part of for our culture, it's unbelievable. And that's what I think is greatest in part about this show is the fact that we have the ability now to pass on some of that, so that the younger guys and the newer riders that are getting involved in this know names like Keith Ball, and they know what he was responsible for. So I'm really proud and privileged to have any hand in that at all.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm super grateful to have known him and call him a brother. He's one of those guys that,
absolutely.
once he knows you and trusts you, he'll give you the shirt off his back. He's always been there. I know for myself, whenever I have any questions or thoughts, ideas, etc., he's one of those guys that I can always call and go, hey, what do you think about this? And he's always got that perspective and kind of that sage advice. So
as soon as we get done
really
with the show, speaking of sage advice, as soon as we get done with the show today, I'm killing the dog. I'm killing the dog. Once I get off air and the SPCA can't come after me, I'm killing this dog.
Yeah, don't do that. That would be really sad. But we got to do something about that. But hey, it's a work in progress. It's better than it was it's better than it was last week, which was not at all, or 20 minutes or whatever it was. Yeah. That's so right. I mean, I think we're making progress, and that's all we can hope for. So, all right. I think we could get to the point where we could actually do this twice a week, but I don't want your brain to explode. You're like, no.
No, as soon as we get a producer, man. But for now, exactly. I mean, hey, listen, it's awesome. Like Keith was saying, just having access to so much technology today that we can get on here and do this, and it helps me as an editor of a magazine just to constantly take the temperature of what's going on and force myself to be involved in gathering more information and gaining a new perspective. So this is as good for me as it is about doing the show,
Yeah. And next week, I haven't asked you about this. I don't know if you have any ideas for guests next week, but I'm fairly confident that Steve Broyles would be interested in coming in. Stevenson Cycles. He doesn't know it yet, but I did talk to him last week, I believe, and he was like, "Yeah, call me whenever you want." So I'm going to take him up on that. I think it'd be great to have him on and just talk about his history, where he's been, what he's been doing, that sort of stuff.
Dude, he's a character.
He's a great guy, man, and he's a talker. So I think it'd be fun to have him on for sure.
So hey, George the Painter is on social media right now, and he's reminding me
Jesus.
The actual time of last week's show was 12 minutes. That's when all of Pennsylvania lost power and we lost George. But George, we're going to get back to you pretty soon, buddy.
We've got to, because we've got to have that story, and we got to have a good connection where we can actually, get that going, because it was tough the last time. I could tell that, that echo and everything. I hate that feedback when I get that. It's just so obnoxious. So
I feel
it's
so
really
bad
tough
for George too, because we were right in the groove.
I know, we were just starting to get going, and then poof, disappeared. Anyways, we'll get him back on for sure.
Well, it's been a great show, man. I appreciate everybody joining us right after Christmas, between your Christmas and New Year break, and for sticking with us here. Tell everybody about this. Share the show with your friends. You can always pick it up on forever2wheels.com or the Cycle Source Facebook page. After the show is over, you can share those. And every Thursday from here on in, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to take this thing live with 60 minutes of all the shit that can fit.
Yep. Please go subscribe on 4e2w.com. Go to iTunes. You can get these audio. So appreciate everybody being here. And I'm Ken.
And I'm Chris.
We're out.
And this is Shop Talk.